Welcome to another fun video with Mr. Jimenez. I'll do the background noise. Yay! Okay, so we have two new things we got to talk about, but they shouldn't be surprising to you. So the new thing we're talking about is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And this should make sense to you because if I have two triangles, right? And I've already proven that they're congruent, say by side angle side. If I've already said that these two triangles are congruent by side angle side, then I also know, well, if the two triangles are congruent, then I can say that FD is congruent to AC, right? Because if the triangles are congruent, then all of their parts that are in the same position are also congruent. That should make sense to you. Also, angle A is congruent to angle F. But first, I must show that the triangles are congruent. And we have a geometric fact here that says a point that lies on the perpendicular bisector of a line segment will lie equidistant from its endpoints. That's a mouthful. So let's actually draw a diagram. So a point, so this here is my perpendicular bisector, okay? That is my perpendicular bisector. And it's bisecting AB, but it's also creating a right angle, right? Perpendicular means right angle. Bisector means cutting in half. So if I have a point right here that lies on the perpendicular bisector, then that point is going to be equidistant to AB as well to AC as well as CB. But if the point also lies on this perpendicular bisector and we have say this point is D, then we know that DA is congruent to DB. Similarly, if the point is here and it's F, FA is congruent to FB. No, everywhere they will be equidistant from the endpoints, okay? Hope that idea makes sense. If you have questions on it, ask about it tomorrow in class. So let's do this major example here. Let's read the question. In the diagram below, it is given that AB is congruent to AC. So let's mark it. AB is congruent to CB. Perfect. And BD bisects angle ABC. So angle ABC is this entire angle over here. So that means that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Okay, we would like to prove that BD must also bisect angle ATD. So what does that mean? I have to show that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. So this means show angle 3 equals angle 4. Okay, that's what we need to show. In order for that to be true, we need to prove that triangle, right? ABD is congruent to triangle. What does A correspond to? Well, A corresponds to C. So must be congruent to triangle C. What does B correspond to and D correspond to? Well, they're fixed points, so they stay in the same position. So BD. This is a triangle symbol. Sorry about that. Let's go after it. Remember, we're trying to show angle 3 equals angle 4, but first we must show that the two triangles are congruent. Let's see what we have. Mark your diagram. Mark your diagram. Before anything you do, what do you have to do? I wish I had a voice that said, mark your diagram. Let's mark it. We know this is true, right? That's given to you. You know, angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And you also know that this BD is congruent to itself because they share the same side. It's called the reflexive property. Now I know that side, angle, side. Done, okay? Here we go. Let's write the actual proof. All right, so here is the given. That shouldn't come to a surprise for you. Now we have statement number 2, which should tell you that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And that's just because BD bisects, right? Bisects the angle, so it cuts it in half. So angle 1 has to be congruent to angle 2. Remember, bisects means just to cut in half. Statement number 3 is that BD is congruent to BD by the reflexive property. And we should already be comfortable with the reflexive property. Vertical angles, the reflexive property, or parallel lines cut by a transversal. That's what you look for. Statement number 4. I now have my 3 reasons, my 3 congruent statements. Here I have an angle, here I have a side, and here I have another side. So it's spelled out for you. Okay? But the question said that we needed to show this. Since we've already proven that the 2 triangles are congruent, then all of the corresponding parts are congruent. So 5 is going to be congruent to angle, 3 is congruent to angle 4 by Cpctc. Okay? And that is what we learned over here. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Well, we've shown it. We've done it. We've shown that angle 3 equals angle 4. But we must actually write out the statement that they want us to write. And this is the statement that they want you to write. You must end with that. So 6, BD bisects, right? Bisects angle ADC. And what's the reason? Well, the statement before, 6 is going to be because angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Done. Here is your CFU. In this CFU, it is already given to you that the 2 triangles are congruent. All I want you to state is the corresponding angles, right? And remember what corresponding means. It means same position. Okay, same position. So which angles are in the same position and which sides are in the same position? And this is not a drawing class, so you don't need to draw this diagram. You can simply just tell me what the corresponding angles are because I'm going to give you this diagram tomorrow in class. You may draw it if you like, but you don't have to.